Hello and welcome to the final race of Season 10 of the All Assist Off League, where it is all going to be left out on the track in Abu Dhabi. After the chaos that we saw in Baku, it does leave Sandman at 90 points ahead of Nay Danger David in second place. As we welcome Ben Dawson, or Skin, sorry. He told me before we even started not to refer to him as Ben, so I apologise. It's not the only apology I'm sure I'm going to be making throughout the entirety of this episode as well. Skin, welcome to Abu Dhabi.
You're very lucky, mate, that I've not got the first flight back home after calling me Ben, but well, I'll let you off, mate. It is a Monday night. It's been a long day, but happy to be back by your side, ready to see what these lads can deliver in the last race after last week's chaos. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm hoping that we're going to see more racing on track as opposed to driving behind a safety car like last week. It was quite the opposite that we saw in Baku. The race, when we got to see it, was exceptional. It put a lot of promise into a lot of drivers. It does leave Ferrari at the top of the All Assist Off League Constructors' Championship. It does leave Sandman at the top of the drivers. Now, the permutation for today is that he needs to finish 15th or below, and Nay Danger David needs to win with the fastest lap to walk away as the champion. Now, Sandman has won this. This would be his third championship. He's won it for 2 years of the 10 already. It would be his second consecutive. How important is the experience there for him?
Well, it's vital, clearly, because with the experience is coming success. Do wonder if Nay Danger David would have had a word in the paddock with his teammate D. Perez, potentially some shenanigans to give him the best chance, but after watching the race last week, I've no doubt it is going to be as fair as possible. And yeah, really excited. But I've got Sandman on screen now. He looks to have been the first one out on the track, or at least the first one in terms of the leaders of the constructors. He's just started his timed lap now. So I don't know if you want to talk us through what should be the provisional pole once he crosses the line.
Yeah, with the first driver out, he will be on provisional pole. Everybody out on soft tyres at the moment as he comes up towards the first DRS. Of course, the track has changed from the last couple of years, probably making it a little bit easier and allowing a bit more speed going into these sort of corners. So he's just hit the detection zone for the first DRS zone here in Abu Dhabi, and onto the long straight he can open up the back wing of drag reduction system, which of course will gain him an extra maybe half a second in some instances, especially with the Ferrari and the pace that they've so far been showing that they've got this season. Into a quick left-right, a corner that I absolutely hate taking, and very rarely, should I say, nail it as well as he just has done there. Going into the setup for the second DRS zone as well. Quite far ahead of any other cars in and around him. The second car to pass the stop-start line was actually his teammate, who I do have to apologise to. For the entire last race, I was calling him Vinienzo. It is Vincenzo, despite how misleading that name may show.
If it makes you feel better, mate, I think I started that, so don't feel too bad.
Yeah, well, I'll blame it on you on that one then. We are in Sector 3 at the moment, then taking the penultimate corner before going on to the pit straight with VSM Sandman. He's on 1:19 at the moment. He will definitely set the provisional pole, of course, of just an 18-minute qualifying session, and that is 1:24.255, which of course puts him on provisional pole. His teammate now coming on to the pit straight to see if he can better that. Second and third last week, they go first and second so far, of course they do, but by nearly a second separating the top two. D. Perez then in third place, 3/10 behind Vincenzo. So the Red Bull so far behind the Ferraris. I'm going to go on with Danger David at the moment, who is out on track. He's coming out onto the pit straight now to set his time lapse. We've got yellow flags in Sector 1 and 2. He goes provisional pole just quicker than VSM Sandman. So the Red Bulls are currently first and fifth. The Ferraris second and third after one trip around the track.
What a start from Danger David. Ivor, what a lap there in the Aston Martin, has actually gone second, so it'll be interesting to see. Sandman, as he goes into Sector 3, is currently going half a second quicker than his first timed lap, so you would assume that he'll pit now, maybe change tyres, ready to go back out again. But a fantastic lap from Danger David. He's a tenth and a half clear of Sandman in third. He's about 8/100ths clear of Ivor in second, so perfect start for Danger David. It would help him even more if there's a bit of traffic between him and Sandman. But yeah, Sandman is now heading into the pits, and yeah, what a perfect start for Danger David.
Well, heading into this race, Ferrari are the leaders of the Constructors' Championship at the moment on 826.5 points. Red Bull in second place on 789. Then joint third, the AlphaTauri and Aston Martin teams with 683.5. So whilst we might not get a change in the top two, we might get one in third and fourth, both on level points going into the final race of the season, fighting for the third step on the podium. Ivor taking second place, as you mentioned, on 124.183. We don't have the worry of all the rain that we had last week, of course, as we're on board with Danger David just heading into the pits at the moment. We'll jump across to Tibran, who just missed out on the start of qualifying. His line disconnected, but he's managed to join us before the end of qualifying as he's warming up his tyres on an outlap at the moment. Multiple cars heading back into the pits. Tibran, RS0121, Sir Ibo, Cal L, who's making his debut, I believe, as well, and Skid Solo are the drivers out there at the moment that haven't yet set a time. 3 of those are currently in the pits. No eyes for rain at the moment. I think it is just going to be a case of soft tyres for all these drivers as we come around the final bend into with Tibran preparing for what could be a make or break lap for him. Had a steady race last weekend, of course, as well. Many of drivers lost out last weekend, didn't they? I think 8 didn't finish the race. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
11 finish in the end.
Yeah, pure chaos, mate. I'm just on board with Sir Ibo, looking to set his first timed lap. A bit shaky going around the second to last corner, and currently has the slowest of all the timed laps. So I'm sure he'll be looking now, Sir Ibo, to go even faster around the track in the Haas, but not a great start. Just flicking on board with Tibran 1, who was one of the unlucky ones last week in the Williams, but look, it was a bit of an anomaly, weren't it? It was the first race that we'd commentated on this league, but a lot of the feedback after the race was that it was the most safety cars that they'd been combined throughout the whole of the rest of the season and things like that. So I wouldn't read too much into the quality of the overall league. There was still some phenomenal driving. Baku is a tough track at the best of times, so when you're dealing with a safety car every other lap, it's never going to be easy. So full credit to everyone that took part last week, not just those that finished the race. But Tibran is just approaching now the end of Sector 2 as it looks to set a timed lap. You would assume he wants to be looking at starting at least in the points, but let's see.
He's dropped a little bit there. He went purple in Sector 1 as well, so he's lost a little bit there as he comes up to a little bit of traffic and a yellow flag just before the start of Sector 3. He's going to be very disappointed with how his second sector's gone. Hopefully he can recover some of that and push himself up, like you say, into the points. Purple in Sector 1. He prepares himself to come around the penultimate corner now. There are plenty of cars in front of him, not all out on timed laps at the moment. Some just beginning their time laps as he goes across the line and puts himself up into 6th place on 125.3, which is not a bad effort for a Williams car. A great position to start with, but it puts him ahead of Danger David's teammate D. Perez, who of course last weekend we know also didn't finish the race, which has led to this final race standoff between Ferrari and Red Bull. He's currently in 7th place on 125.4. I believe he's also back out on the track. I think he was one of the first drivers to come back out on the track for their second lap, and he's out at the moment. He's stuck at the moment behind one of the cars as well. It's going to be very interesting. He's managed to go up the side of him. Nope, going to have to stay behind him on this. It's interesting when the track starts to get this busy, when cars let each other by, because there's a lot up for grabs in the final race of the season. There's no room for error because there's no other races where you can try and rectify that, of course. It's not only the final race of this season, I believe it's also going to be the final race of F122, because F123 is released tomorrow, which should spring into new competition, shall we say, in Sector 3 at the moment with D. Perez in 7th place.
So qualifying's going to be pretty... I was trying to get a word in then, but you won't let me. I was on board with Sandman there, who was flying around the track, going about 2/10 slower, and rain started, so it's going to be tough, especially for the bottom 3 at the moment, RS, Cal and Skid Solo, to set a lap that's going to be anywhere near getting them out of the places that they're currently in. So you would have to assume the time lapse that they currently are, unless the rain stops in the next 10 minutes, or well, not even 10 minutes, the next 5 minutes to give someone a chance to get back out. It's you've got to assume that this is going to be the starting grid as we look at it right now.
Well, DRS has been disabled, and D. Perez, RS0121, has been disqualified for driving the wrong way. apparently, and he was in 16th place prior to this. He's dropped down to 17th place now. He has been disqualified, so he's been sent straight back to the paddock. So everyone's starting to head in. One driver that is out there at the moment is Racing Wheel 027. He's spinning off track quite regularly at the moment on those soft tyres. It looks like, you can see on the track that it's going to be intermediate tyres almost certainly. You can't see anybody beating those times, which is where I guess we make our money, isn't it? With 7 minutes of content to try and fill with nobody out on the track. D. Perez did abandon his lap, which makes me believe that he did not beat his time of 1:25.4 just as the rain was starting. But the rain has continued to come down, which would make it a bit more interesting for the race, as Danger David has retired from the session. He's of a firm belief that he is not going to be able to beat his time unless this rain quickly clears up and it goes back into sunshine. I'd probably agree with him.
And you talk about filling 7 minutes of content. I don't really know what to say, because there's not really going to be much that happens now, and I'll be surprised if anyone even bothers going back out. So it could be a case of people
Racing Wheel stayed out.
Yeah.
Instead of going into the pits, he's chosen to stay out. As there's a yellow flag on the pit entrance. As I think I saw, it was maybe one of the Red Bulls there that was trying to get into the pits and struggled to do so. Racing Wheel did stay out on those soft tyres. He's going to try and beat his time of 1:26.9. So I appreciate him staying out to at least give us something to talk about. A little bit further ahead of him is Sir Ibo, who's out on an outlap at the moment as well. Both on one of the longer straights and the calendar. He's out on intermediate tyres, so he's trying to beat his time of 1:28. I think with those sort of times, you're 4 seconds off the lead. It's at least worth the risk, isn't it?
I suppose if you're going to benefit from being out on the track, if there's only one thing, it is getting used to the track layout if you've not played it too much, especially, as you mentioned towards the start, the slight changes to the layout. It definitely makes it faster. Definitely makes it easier and eliminates the opportunity for mistakes. So, and he's a very big
bit of a spin there from Sir Ibo.
Yeah, they're not going to set any kind of time that's going to move them up the leaderboard. This will be the starting grid for the race. I don't really see the point in being out there at the moment, like I said, other than getting used to the track if you're not quite used to it yet. But so looking at it now, Danger David gets pole, Evil second, Sandman third. The championship is Sandman as it stands, and I suppose that first couple of corners is going to be vital. If there's any trouble, if there's any kind of chaos and carnage similar to what we saw last week, could potentially wipe a couple of drivers out. And if Sandman's one of them, then it could make for a very interesting race. But at the moment, you have to assume, based on his performance last week, based on the fact that he's on the verge of winning the title for the third consecutive season, that he's got one hand on the trophy with how the grid looks at the moment.
Well, Quincy from 8th place has retired as well, not believing that he's going to be able to beat the time that he set just a little bit earlier. Subo is staying out there on intermediate tyres. He is spinning in certain different ways, so maybe it is just like you say, getting used to the track. As VSM Sandman also joins the retirees with just under 5 minutes left to go of this qualifying session. If you're in Red Bull's position now, then you've just said it yourself. Sandman's in 3rd place. As it stands, if this is how the race finishes, Sandman is walking away as the champion. With Danger David in 1st, his teammate down in 7th, the focus then needs to turn into making this a Red Bull championship as opposed to a Ferrari championship. And when your competition's in 3rd and 4th, it's all about the start. So what are you saying in that paddock, as maybe even as yourself as a Red Bull fan, to Perez and Danger David to get themselves ready for this final battle?
Take it steady. You need a little bit of luck at this point, don't you? Danger David starting where he needs to be. D. Perez not quite as much in 7th. So you need a little bit of luck there. And again, referring back to last week, because it is the only race that we've seen in the season, we know that anything can happen at any given moment. So good start, take it steady into those first couple of corners, avoid contact, avoid damage, and you never know, if luck's on your side, you might still be in with a chance. But yeah, again, similar to the drivers, Ferrari have got one hand on that Constructors' trophy as it stands. But again, who knows what can happen when we get into the race and around 4 to 5 minutes time.
I'm just looking at the competition for 3rd place as well. both the AlphaTauris and the Aston Martins and where they are set up at the moment. Ivor had quite a nice race last weekend as well, didn't he? So he's carrying that momentum into this weekend and starting second place on the grid. I mean, Danger David in the first corner last weekend made an error that dropped him down, and he did it on the final lap as well, to be fair, but on the first corner that dropped him down significantly, maybe to an extent cost him quite a bit of the race. Evo in second place, you get a good start in Abu Dhabi. I know there's quite wide tracks, so you've got a lot of overtaking opportunities, but the chance is yours then, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And full credit to Evo for the performance yesterday, and for the lap that they've produced to start on the front row. So it'd be interesting to see how the rest of the season has been before last week, but with a bit more consistency and a full season on the track, they could well have been in with a shot of being in the conversation of winning the Drivers' Championship going into this race.
One of his biggest competitors is who we are on board with at the moment, Trugster, down in 5th place. Just finished that lap 13 seconds slower than his best time of 1:25.3. So the intermediates do add a lot of time, which we expected, of course. 13 seconds. It makes all the difference heading into race day. Not quite sure what the weather's going to be like, but providing it's dry weather, what sort of strategy do you approach taking into Abu Dhabi? Because you're the sort of driver, we've done this track plenty of times, where you're either at the front fighting or you're at the back losing. You're never in the middle. You're one of those drivers that's never in the middle with the potential of pushing up. You're either at the front or you're at the back.
Yeah, and Abu Dhabi seems to be one of them tracks where I seem to be more at the back than I am at the front. Why that is, I don't really know, but in an online league where it's competitive, everyone wants to impress. Nobody wants to be wasting their time. People want to, use their time in the track productively and get as high as possible. It makes for a very competitive race. But for me personally, looking at the standard of drivers that we've seen over this last week and then the qualifying so far today, it would definitely be one of those where I'm towards the back, I think. But you'll probably do a little bit better than me. Can you see yourself being sort of middle of the pack in and amongst these lot?
Me? Absolutely not, no. If I'm allowed to ride with no assist, with all assists on, then I think I've got a bit more of a chance to be riding in amongst them. But no, not with the assists off. I'm absolutely hopeless. I've tried it a couple of times, and I weren't great. As Trugster spins off heading into the final corner, Tibran, D. Perez and Maverick have all also retired from the session, knowing that their times aren't going to get any better. And I've just heard from Maverick that when he went out to set his timed lap of 1:27.491, he went out with 33 laps worth of fuel in his car, which I think might just explain why there's 3 seconds over separating him from top of the leaderboard. But with 33 laps of fuel, 3 seconds isn't too bad, is it?
That's a heavy car. You'll have to check the record books for this one, but I can pretty much confidently say nobody ever in the history of Formula One has managed to do 33 laps in a qualifying session. So full credit to Maverick for trying to be a first time ever set a record in the final race of the season. But yeah, as quoted by in Dodgeball, it's a bold strategy, and I can complete the comment on this one. The quote on this one, it definitely didn't pay off. So yeah, that's qualifying over and done with. As we predicted, the grid at 3 minutes in is the grid that we're starting with. Ready for the last race of the season, Aggie? What's your prediction?
I like Danger David for this. I said last week that when he got pole position that he proved a big threat to Ferrari's title chances, even Sandman's individual chances. Of course, if Sandman performs well today, then it's out of Danger David's hands. All he can do is win this race and get the extra point for himself and for Red Bull. But I think he's shown a lot of potential. When the back end of the car was starting to spin out, there was no room for error in Baku. It automatically led to damage, didn't it? In Abu Dhabi, there's a big runoff in nearly every corner. You've got a lot of opportunities that if you do go wide or there are any errors, you're not necessarily gaining damage. And if you can rejoin the track, barring a penalty, you're still in a very good position to carry on pushing on with. So I like Danger David for this one. What about you?
Yeah, I have to agree. He's got to give it absolutely everything in this race if he's going to stand a chance. He's got the front of the grid, but again, Evo on the front row, a phenomenal lap, only 8/100ths off that pole lap set by Danger David, and I'm kind of trying to get in the mindset of Sandman here, having won back-to-back championships already, almost at the finish line of winning the third in a row. If you finish at least 15th on the track, you've won the title. So starting in third, you've got to assume that he's not going to be taking any risks going into this first corner, and would be quite happy just taking it steady and finishing sort of middle of the pack. Well, not in terms of the whole track, but sort of being comfortable with sort of a third to a sixth place maybe, and not really pushing too hard to get in front and potentially getting into some kind of collision with someone.
And there'll be some disappointment from RS012 after a decent race last weekend, or at least a decent qualifying. Starts from the back of the grid after being disqualified from this one for driving the incorrect direction, which I think a lot of that will come down to the spin-off during the raining part of the session.
If you drive the wrong way down the track, you're going to get disqualified. So, yeah, tough conditions is what it is. Nothing that you can do now. It's just, again, as always, with any kind of race, it's avoiding that collision in the first couple of corners, avoiding damage, sticking to your strategy as best you can, hope the weather holds out, and, race smartly when you're in and amongst other drivers.
Here we go then. So we are not too far away from the start of the final race of the All Assist Off League Season 10, the final one of F122. So going to let you just do a little cheeky plug for where people can listen to myself and you talk a little bit more about Formula One on a weekly basis.
I'll tell you what, mate, with the race last week, I missed the latest episode, but I was a bit disappointed that you didn't review this one over Spain, to be honest, but it is what it is. But yeah, obviously, you've got the links to our personal channels if you're watching the stream, but if you want to hear more formal and proper conversation about the world of real-life Formula One, as well as a plethora of other sports, then just search for Loaded Sport on either YouTube or Spotify, depending on whether you prefer to watch or listen to your podcast. That is where me and Adam and a couple of our pals, we talk football, we talk NFL, we talk Formula One, we talk combat sports, and we talk a little bit of other things as well. But yeah, depending on how this race goes, it might take up more airtime for this week's episode than the preview for Canada, but we'll shortly see. I'm missing this week again, so it might be for you to talk through this one, but I'll let you take us through the formation lap as we prepare for the final race of the season.
I was close to getting excited, believing that this is the race underway again.
I knew it. I heard you come off mute really quick, and I thought he's going to do the same, so I'm going to keep talking so he doesn't start going. Danger David's gone off into the quickest ever lead going into the first corner. But no, it is the formation lap, mate. So take us through it and take us through the start of the race.
Yes, 29 laps around the Abu Dhabi track. Will it be a third consecutive world title for VSM Sandman in the Ferrari, and will his teammate Vincenzo be able to assist the team taking the trophy as well? Or will it be Red Bull to upset the party? Will Danger David and D. Perez be able to stop the rhythm that Ferrari have found themselves in? 29 laps about to unfold as they continue the formation lap, heading through the second sector at the moment. There's a mix of medium and hard tyres, so during the end of qualifying, or towards the end of qualifying should I say, we were talking a lot about the soft tyres that was used in qualifying, whether people would start on the soft tyres, maybe take that little bit of a risk. Of course, in this sort of situation where there's no rain, we do get the luxury of seeing at least one pit stop, which is where the strategies become even more interesting. And nobody opted to go with the soft tyres. I think it's something that we've done a lot of in the past, expecting collisions, expecting safety cars. And based upon last week, and the only time we've had the chance of seeing this group of drivers race, we'd say that soft tyres are the smarter option. But with medium and hard and a lot of space on the track, we might be looking at a completely different race. So it's Danger David on pole position, Evo 32 making up the front row. The Ferraris of Sandman and Vincenzo in third and fourth respectively. Then Trugster, T-Brand 1, D. Perez, Quincy, Pleasant Snake 13, and Veriduco making up the top 10. Toxic CZ10, Racing Wheel 027, then Maverick 09 in the McLaren, Cal L87, Sir Ibo in 15th, Skid Solo 1 in 16th, and RS 0121 down in 17th place. We have a mix of medium and hard tyres. You think that's the reasonable strategy to go for? A switch there for Red Bull and for Ferrari, both going one driver on medium, one on hard?
Yeah, it's interesting to... I was going to say people have been disqualified again, but it's just doing that glitch it always does. It'd be interesting to sort of know the mindset behind the strategies. Is there a little bit of overthinking because you're aware of the permutations? It is the last race. If this was the third or fourth race in the season, would it be slightly different? It'd be interesting to see. But RS is just approaching the getting back to the grid, clearly in absolutely no rush. I think he just nipped back to the pits to run for a wee before the race starts. But yeah, let's take us through the next 50 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, the disqualified drivers have been allowed back onto the track. We are just waiting for the lights out here in Abu Dhabi. The final race of the season. The lights are out. And we've had a couple with jump start penalties before the lights went out. Veriduco and Racing Wheel already have drive-through penalties, and straight into the wall goes Danger David with damage, and that looked quite questionable there straight away, didn't it?
There's no quite about continues, that. There is no quite.
Wow, that was madness straight from the beginning. Danger David pushed straight into the wall. He's got no wing at the moment, so he's going to have to pit. This is going to be a big uphill challenge now for the Red Bull as D. Perez makes a huge gain up into 4th place. Sandman there takes the lead of the race, as I believe, and yes, we do. We have a safety car out on the first lap, so formalities from what happened in Baku a week ago, we are back to what we expected as Kal-El 87 is out of the race on the first corner. Sandman takes the lead, Vincenzo in 2nd, Trugster up into 3rd, Perez in 4th, Tibran in 5th, Pleasant Snake 13 6th, Toxic 7th, Quincy in 8th, Danger David down in 9th place, still needing to pit, Veriduco and Maverick in 10th and 11th, Racing Wheel 027, Sir Ibo in 13th, RS 0121 in 14th, Skid Solo 15th, and Ivor at the back in 16th place, also with no wings. So both on medium tyres. Would you expect it to just be a straightforward let's go straight in for hards, or do you think softs to try and gain that lead as the safety car heads in?
Well, I think the conversation right now needs to be what happened on. Obviously, we'd have to see a replay of it. We're just going off of live, but to me, it looked like Ivor just swung straight into Danger David when there was absolutely no reason to do so. But again, without seeing a replay, it'd be hard to say. But on first watch, that is what it looked like happened. And now, Danger David drops down to 9th. Quincy's gone very slow, allowing Danger David up into 8th. Surely he's going to be pitting now, probably onto hards, or he's letting Quincy back by the looks of it. I'm not sure what's going on here exactly, but I mean,
yeah, he's gone into the pits and Racing Wheels followed in.
The fallout from this, I'm sure, is going to be big, because you don't want to see it on any race across the season, but when there's championships up for grabs and it's the last race of the season, I mean, from your perspective, I don't know what angle you were watching. I was sort of watching the broadcast angle, sort of looking over the grid. But from my angle, it just looked like Evo just swerved straight into Danger David. Whether it was we know what it can be like with no assist. We play with Gaz who uses a wheel, and he often has sort of wheel spin and car swerving at the start of the race. There's potential for something like that to have happened now, but Danger David, he's gone on to mediums, so we'll have to pit again, having started the race on mediums. We've got to assume that he's not going to be happy with what happened there.
No, he's certainly not, and if it costs him the race and it costs Red Bull and him the championship, then there's certainly going to be questions raised in the paddock afterwards, isn't there, when everyone has the debrief. I think it's always going to be that question of, did that happen deliberately, or did that happen as part of wheel spin? Now, it looked almost instant for me that he went directly right, almost as if there's drift on the pad, so to speak, and he pushed him straight into the wall. Whether that was deliberate or not, I suppose only Cal, who I believe it was that crashed in, knows. What I do know is that Veriduco in the McLaren and Racing Wheel 027 also have drive-through penalties to serve, so there's still a lot up for grabs in this race. We saw Danger David come from a further position back than 15th last week, and still finish what would have been 2nd place had it not been for that spin on the final corner. So we know he's got it in him. We know that he can compete and get himself back up here. I think the saving grace for him at the moment is that D. Perez is in 4th place, and this could still work to his advantage. In addition to that, he's not out of the race. It's not game over for him, so there's still something to fight for that Red Bull.
I'm very surprised that he isn't out, because he hit that wall hard. It's all about angles in this game when it comes to crashes and the type of damage you take, whether it is just a wing, whether it's no damage, or whether you lose a wheel and you're out of the race. So, again, on first watch, without having the ability to go back and watch it right now, I might be able to jump on my live stream and rewind it, but yeah, I think he's very, very lucky that he's not out at the moment. But I have got the the live stream up as it stands, so it does give me the benefit of being able to get a replay. So if you just want to take us through what could potentially be the end of the safety car, I'll get that up and I'll report back on what I see.
Yeah, hopefully it is the final lap of the safety cars. They just make their way into the beginning of Sector 2 and prepare themselves for the second DRS zone of Abu Dhabi. No one's going to get to see that DRS, of course, because of the safety car. Sandman does hold the lead on medium tyres. As a repeat of what happened last weekend, we saw Danger David take a bit of a hit on the first lap and Vincenzo in second place. So it's advantage Ferrari after lap 1. We are now on lap 3, and that advantage stands stronger than it did this time last week. It looks like, as it stands, Ferrari and Sandman will be the respective champions. A lot of work for Red Bull to do, but they're both still in the race, and as we saw last weekend, so much can happen. I do feel a bit for Ivo. He had a fantastic qualifying, got himself up in second place, and I think he was just caught up in that damage that happened on the first corner and fell down to 16th place behind Danger David. But they both have the advantage of the fact that they have had their pit stop. So if Ivo can make these hard tyres last until the end of the race, there is no reason why we shouldn't believe that he could be in and amongst the stronger point positions, if not on a podium position. There has been confirmation that the safety car is heading in at the end of this lap. As the safety car makes its way into the pit, it will be VSM Sandman that is the speed setter for us as he goes round onto the pit straight, and we are back underway racing in Abu Dhabi. It's Sandman from Vincenzo going past the stop-start line now. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 3, looking like the cars that are slowing down heading into the pit straight, and VSM Sandman is heading into the second corner as Danger David is not long since just past the stop-start line. He is just behind Racing Wheel 027. No position changes at the moment as we come up towards the end of the detection zone of DRS zone 1 onto the long straight of Sandman. Vincenzo holds into second place as well as we see Danger David and Racing Wheel competing heading into this corner. Danger David takes up 2 positions there and goes up into 13th place. Excellent work going past Skid Solo and Racing Wheel. This is without DRS as well. He's got the opportunity to go past RS012 on, and he has done so as well, up into 12th place with just 4 corners gone. Danger David has moved up from 15th place into 12th. Ivor moves up from 16th to 15th as well, as RS012 and Skid Solo having a bit of a battle themselves. VSM Sandman holds now a 2.5 second lead from his teammate Vincenzo at the front of the track.
So I've just got up the replay, and Ivo just
Vincenzo's gone down. Vincenzo's dropped down to 4th place, and he's had a bit of a collision there with T-Brand. Looks like no damage for either of them as we do go round in Sector 3. Vincenzo's fallen from 2nd down to 4th place. Sorry to interrupt you there, but he'd fallen down quite significantly, and it looked like may have been worse for him as him and T-Brand went into a bit of a battle there.
Yeah, so it does look... So Ivor goes right, and it does look like Sandman could potentially have caught Ivor's back right tyre, which then caused him to spin into Danger David. It's hard to see for definite at the angle that we were watching at, but there is potential there. Ivor does move right, which naturally you would want to do with the first corner being a left turn, but it's not until Sandman approaches that rear right tyre of Ivor that he then makes that sudden swerve into Danger David into the wall. So potentially, I say potentially, it's definitely the one for the stewards to look at. We're not the authority, we're just here to talk about what's happened. But looking back on the incident again, Danger David starts, maintains first place. Ivor moves slightly right. Sandman comes across as if to try and go into the middle of Ivor and Danger David, and it does appear to clip the rear right tyre of Ivor, which sends him into Danger David, puts Sandman in first place, and also sent Danger David down to the rear of the field, as you mentioned there. So yeah, that will be one that will definitely be looked at after the race. What the potential outcome will be and the potential consequences, I don't know. But yeah, Danger David is already back up into 7th place. But again, we spoke about it in qualifying, talking about how comfortable Sandman might take it. He's definitely going to be taking it at the moment. He's just taken the fastest lap, and he's 5.5 seconds ahead of Trugster in second on the 6th lap. So pretty much as it stands, as comfortable as it could possibly get.
Another collision for Danger David. David dropped down into 13th place. He's gone into the wall on the pit straight, this time with a collision, I believe, That was with Pleasant Snake 13 this time as well. But he'd made excellent progress to get himself all the way up into 7th place, and he looked like a man possessed with the driving that he was doing. He was absolutely nailing every corner, every opportunity, getting past drivers on a more than regular basis, making it look all too easy. His teammates up in 3rd place at the moment of D. Perez of the Red Bull, and it's just it looked like the back end of his car again. It just spun out a little bit from him. So he's going to have all that work to do yet again. Veriduca and Racing Wheel, the 2 cars that are behind him, have both served their drive-through penalties, and they're not too far behind him at the moment, which should tell you just how much he's fallen. He's now 5 seconds away from RS0121 in the Mercedes. Meanwhile, Vincenzo's been having connection issues, so he's fallen down from 2nd place into 5th. So he's been struggling in his own right. It's allowed the Red Bull of D. Perez to move up into 3rd and potentially knock on the door of Sandman. To do so, he is going to have to get past Trugster, and he's going to have to do that sooner rather than later, as it's allowing the current championship leader, the 2-time champion winner, VSM Sandman, to extend his lead, as we have another yellow flag in Sector 3, and I believe this one is Cerribo. And it is, he's gone wide, and now Danger David's moved up into 13th place, as Cerribo allowed quite a few cars to go past him. Then he falls down into 14th place. So entertainment since the safety car went in. Sandman still leads now for Trugster. Then D. Perez, T-Bran, Vincenzo in 5th place, Quincy down in 6th, Toxic, Maverick, Ivor up into 9th place as well. So let's not let it go under the radar just how well Ivor's done. We saw Danger David make his way up into 7th place. Ivor's done it phenomenally well as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just on board with Ivor there as you speak, and there's a bit of a cluster between a 6th and 10th place, 6th and 9th place, should I say. So just on board with that, but Sandman, I mentioned what seems like half a lap ago, he was 5.5 seconds ahead and he'd set the fastest lap. In that time, he's now 8 seconds clear and gone back-to-back on fastest lap. So absolutely flying around the track, and as it stands, looks like there's not going to be any other person on this track that's going to win this race or lift the trophy. But Danger David crashing for a second time, all or nothing really. Got to take risks, he's got to push as hard as he can, not in a position where he can wait for overtaking opportunities. He's got to go, because we know he needs to win the race, so it's going to happen it's going to happen at that point. You know, you've got no choice really.
Is everything alright there? Sounds like we've got a few connection issues.
I pulled my headset out, mate, sorry.
We've all been there.
I was trying to move, I got excited and I pulled the wire out of my headset, so apologies for that. But yeah, Danger David, got to push, got to take risks, and it's not always going to pay off, is it? Especially with the amount of risks that he's going to have to try and take over the next 20 or so laps. So still on board with Ivor. There's not been any movement in that sort of cluster between 6th and 9th, but yeah, Sandman now 8.4 seconds ahead, absolutely flying around this track, and in about half an hour's time or so, we're going to have a reigning, defending and consecutive champion, I think.
Well, Cerribo has fallen down into 16th place. He's gone wide again on the corner, heading in towards the pit straight, as Danger David and Pleasant Snake are having a bit of a battle, and there's still a chance that could escalate into something, as Ivor and Toxic are having a bit of a battle in for 8th place as well. We're on board with Danger David as he goes up onto the outside of Pleasant Snake, heading to the next corner is the inside line for him. He's actually moved out onto the outside, having confirmed himself that position. He's now in 11th place, so he's building his way back up again. And Danger David is really proving himself as one to watch on these sort of games, isn't he? I've not seen too many people with performances like this, and Danger David dropping from 1st down to 15th, back up to 7th, back down to 14th, and now he's up into 11th place, just outside of the top 10. I don't think we're too far away from seeing potential pit stops, as Danger David has gone purple through Sector 2 as well. So he's in the final sector at the moment and potentially taking the fastest lap away from his nearest competitor of BSM Sandman, who now sits just nearly 9 seconds ahead of Trugster in 2nd place. D. Perez trying to keep the door keep close to Trugster, but the door remains closed for him at the moment, as Danger Dave goes wide onto the pit straight, doesn't quite beat his fastest time, and therefore doesn't beat Sandman's fastest time either, to take himself the extra point that he desperately needs as well for this championship battle. He is in 11th place at the moment. I'm not sure quite who you've been watching at the moment, but I think the closest we've got is Ivor, closing the gap on Maverick, who's up into 7th place now as well. Started, I think it was 12th place after, 14th place, sorry, after the situation with fuel. Few cars all linked together here. DRS is open. Heading into the end of Sector 2. Just has to slow down. Can't quite keep up with Maverick there. Maverick takes the corner quite nicely, sat just behind Quincy as well. So this hold-up of cars isn't helping Ivor, but it is helping Danger David close the gap on quite a few of these cars. As Sir Ibo looks like he's having more trouble down in Sector 1 at the moment. Yellow flag keeps coming out for him as Ivor. 3-car battle here as Ivor goes out on the outside, tries to get past Maverick and Quincy. Still remains in 8th place, but Maverick has managed to gain a position there as well. Heading round into one of the final corners of the track. It remains a 2-car battle now with Maverick and Quincy as Ivor seems to have dropped off the pace ever so slightly. Nice little battling from the 3 cars there as well. And it's allowed the Toxic to gain a bit more momentum, catching them up in the Alfa Romeo as well. Going around onto the pit straight at the moment, Ivor just a little bit behind Maverick and Quincy. I think the DRS is going to be the separator for him there at the moment. I think those 3 cars are going to be battling quite nicely between themselves over the next couple of laps, whilst DRS starts to prove the difference between them, should I say. I'm struggling for my words today. I've not had enough whiskey for this.
Well, I've poured another rum, mate, while you were talking there, so I appreciate you buying me the time. Hopefully these lads aren't drinking while they're driving and they're doing it responsibly. But we're not driving, and if we were, I'm sure we'd already be back in the pits watching it anyway, so we might as well talk about it, and we might as well try and provide some entertainment. But a great move there from Quincy at the end of that long straight, gets him back up into 6th place. Brilliant move around Maverick, and yeah, this 3-way battle between them is getting closer and closer, and is delivering some fantastic entertainment in the middle of the track. But yeah, Danger David now up into 10th, currently 3 seconds behind Toxic. It's there's not a huge amount happening at the moment, but this is a nice little pocket on the track where these lads seem to be pushing to get the most points as possible. But Ivor, after that incident between him, Sandman and Danger David, has moved himself back up into 6th place, 4.4 seconds behind T-Bran in 5th. So I'm sure this next couple of laps will be about pushing as hard as possible. Now he's got a bit of free track in front of him, and try and close that gap to get into the top 5.
That's only just become T-Brand's position as well, because him and Vincenzo were battling quite nicely. As Vincenzo goes wide going into turn 2, manages to keep the position of 4th place. He lost a bit of connection and fallen down to 5th, but he's managed to catch up with T-Brand, and now he's just starting to move himself a little bit further ahead. It's vital that he manages to catch up to D. Perez and maybe even get ahead of him, because I think D. Perez has a very important role in this championship battle, not just for Red Bull, but of course for his teammate Danger David, who's down in 10th place as we speak on the hard tyres, 10 laps old as we speak. I think they could probably do 6-7 more laps on those before they start considering pitting, and I think that'd have to be a pit to medium. So I think we've got another 3 or 4 laps before we might even see Sandman take the risk of going into the pits as well, as Ivor now moves up into 7th place, dropping Maverick down into 8th. We're on board with Maverick, gives us the best view of Ivor attacking Quincy, or at least I thought it did until the camera chose to change on the inside. Ivor moves himself onto 6th place quite nicely as well, and like I say, it's just them 3 going to be battling whilst they're in DRS of each other, until one of them manages to get a bit more of a clear lead, as Danger David moves past Toxic and keeps that position as he moves up into 9th place now as well, with tyres that are 1 lap younger than the majority of the rest of the grid, and he goes round onto the outside and moves up into 8th place as Quincy seems to have lost.
Went off track, so that led to the drop and opened the door for Danger David. So in about 3 corners he's gone from 10th to 8th, overtaking Toxic and Quincy. And I'm sure again now 3 seconds behind Maverick, bit of track in front of him. He's got to give it absolutely everything, hasn't he? He can't take it steady, he can't push for sort of comfortable laps. He's got to push this track and this car to its absolute limits now. I mean, Sandman 9 seconds ahead. What do you do at this point? You don't necessarily know unless Danger David's watching the stream live. He doesn't necessarily know that Sandman's in first place and 9 seconds in front of second. So with that mindset, not knowing where Sandman is potentially, but knowing he is ahead of you, what do you do in that position?
As Danger David?
Yes.
Yeah, You've got to keep on doing what you're doing. Maverick's at the moment going backwards, and he's been held up by Ivor. So D. Perez has just gone up into second place as well. Sorry, I'll come back to the question about Danger David. Is Perez and Truxtun having a bit of a battle? Truxtun's just gained second place back from him as Vincenzo moves up into fourth. Him and T-Bran having a battle themselves. So I'll let you watch that and then tell me what happened in just a moment. Perez looks like he has lost that position to Truxtun, but the DRS zone could again prove pivotal for him. Heading round into turn 9, just before we head on to the pit straight. Perez in third place, 0.6 behind Truxtun, so he's still within that DRS, and I dare say that I think if Perez can get past him, there's every chance that he could close that gap on Sandman quite nicely. 9.3 seconds now the difference between first and second. I think that's because Truxtun's had to stop his attacking and move into a bit more of a defence mode with Perez in third place. Now, Danger David, I think he's got to continue pushing with what he's doing as Quincy heads into the pits, and now does Toxic. Maybe we could see a couple of pit stops from the medium-tired people, including VSM Sandman, but we have got couple of time penalties to tell you about. RS0121's got a time penalty. I think Quincy got a time penalty for speeding in the pit lane as well. That came up for a brief moment as I'm on board with Maverick, who's got DRS on Evo. He's going to need this, if not to keep up with Evo, but to keep himself a bit further ahead of Danger David, who has closed that gap quite nicely over the course of this last lap. And Danger David will fancy his chances to get past both of those two cars whilst they're battling back and forth with each other. They're not going to be able to gain too much of a distance, and if he can get past them, he's only 2 seconds behind Vincenzo. This could still be race on.
It could be race on. It's a case of what impact it has on the championship for both drivers and constructors. I don't think too much is going to be affected at this point, but it will certainly make for a good race in the bubble that is Abu Dhabi as a race on its own. But Sandman goes into the pits 9.5 seconds ahead of Truxtun. Will Truxtun follow him in, or will he take first place? We will soon find out, as we are now in the halfway point of the race.
Truxtun stays out, and so does D. Perez. So at the moment it's Truxtun first, D. Perez second. VSM Sandman comes out in third place. Will he come out ahead of his teammate Vincenzo? No. It looks like Vincenzo might just have him on the exit. He does, and so does T-Bran. So it's going to be a question of the Ferraris, if it gets to that point, what do you do? As Ivor is ahead of VSM Sandman, both have pitted and both have changed tyres. Ivor, when he pitted on lap 1, went from mediums to hard, which means he currently would be the race leader once everybody else has pitted. Could be an excellent race from Ivor. Mastermind strategy that could very much pay off if he can get these hard tyres to last the distance. But he is only a second ahead of VSM Sandman as T-Bran gets ahead of Vincenzo, who falls down to fourth place. T-Bran up into third, therefore. Perez is within DRS, and he's opened up the DRS on the current race leader of Truxtun, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough reaching in towards the end of this long straight. It isn't, as they go round on the long left-hand turn. He's got another opportunity in a couple of corners' time as well, heading into the pit straight. I think on the hard tyres you could probably leave them to go a little bit longer as Ivor gets past Vincenzo. Now, what do you do as Ferrari? Sandman is just behind Vincenzo. Do you let him go, or do you stay where you are? If you stay where you are, you risk him losing a bit of ground on Ivor.
Yeah, and again, this goes back to what I said earlier about Sandman being comfortable. Does look like he's moving over slightly, and it very quickly closed the door there. So, again, we talk about needing a little bit of luck, and Danger David has had the opposite of that throughout this race. But it does look like now Sandman is just going to get past him, and I tell you what, Vincenzo was not giving him any space there, so very good overtake from Sandman. But would have been quite interesting if there was a bit of a collision and a bit of damage. Sandman had to pit again, and it was caused by his teammate. That would have thrown the race wide open. But yeah, as it stands, Maverick now just behind Vincenzo, going into this DRS zone. You would assume this is going to be a great opportunity for Maverick to go up into sixth place. But yeah, I mean, they blew the potential theory of teamwork right out the door with that couple of corners.
Wow.
The Ferraris there. Vincenzo was having none of it.
This could be interesting because Danger David's just boxed and he's come out on the new hard tyres, fresh hard tyres, and he's not lost a position. So he's still in 9th place. And if he can gain that momentum that he's just had, he's trying to warm his tyres up at the moment, he can knock on the door of quite a few cars here. And Vincenzo and Sandman, they're not too far apart from each other. It could still be a good race for Danger David, even if he doesn't walk out as the race winner. But he's had quite a few battles to contend with in this. as D. Perez stands in second place. His teammate with Trugster ahead of him in first. Ivor down in fourth place. He's got Sandman just behind him. He's got T-Brand just in front of him, and he is in DRS of him, and he's going to need to use that and utilise it if he's going to get past him as well. Otherwise, at the moment, with him being held up, Sandman has every opportunity to get by him on the pit straight as we speak. T-Brand third, Ivor fourth, and Sandman in fifth place. A little bit wide there goes Ivor, heading into the first two corners. Manages to keep his position ahead of Sandman though, but Sandman has closed that gap. He's been closing that gap over the last couple of laps, to be fair, getting past his teammate Vincenzo in seventh place, who I feel that when he pits, he's going to make this very difficult for Ferraris to walk away as the Constructors' Championship, really, because he's still got to pit as Sandman goes past. Ivor heading on to the pit straight, he opens up DRS, gets past him, and he's still very close and could get this on T-Brand as well. Has to stop just before the corner, but he's gained the one position. It's the one that he needed to stay at the front of this race. Once Trugster, D. Perez and T-Brand have pitted, Sandman will go on as your race leader as he now gets past T-Brand as well at the next opportunity, and there's a chance here that Ivor can do the exact same. Ivor's gone onto the inside. He's got past him as well. He's still just behind Sandman with an opportunity at the next corner. Sandman just gains a little bit of a lead there.
Sandman went past T-Brand there like he wasn't even there, which is of no disrespect to T-Brand, but a full credit to how good Sandman is, and shows exactly why he's top of the championship as it stands, and most likely to be the one lifting the trophy at the end of this race. Just waltzed around him, didn't he? I don't really know how else to describe that, but yeah, Sandman as Trugster goes, well, someone goes very wide. Is that a lap? I think RS potentially.
Trugster's gone into the pits.
No, someone in that last corner was very wide on the track, and it doesn't look like someone was in the top three at the time, so I think that could potentially have been a lap on the track there. It was. RS has just been lapped on the final corner of lap 16, so Sandman already back up into second place. D. Perez to pit as well. Danger David just set the fastest lap with a 27.7. And also moved up into 8th place as well with Maverick pitting. But I tell you what, if you're Danger David, it's going to be a sleepless night tonight, isn't it? Thinking about all the bad luck that happened in those first few laps that has led to him currently being in 8th place, chasing the rest of the pack. Yeah,
absolutely, and it's bad luck over the combination of this week and last week. He said he had a bit of bad luck towards the end of it, and it kind of gifted it towards Sandman, but he's really going to need the help of his teammate at the moment. Perez currently leading the race. He's still got a pit. He holds nearly a 7-second lead at the moment over Sandman, so he's going to need a bit of help with him holding him up. But how long can you really do that for when you've got that Sandman galloping closer and closer towards you? You'd like to think that he's the faster of the two options. He's on fresher tyres, that they've got warmed up now. They're under 3 laps old, so I think Perez, who I think is pitting now, Perez has gone into the pits, and where's he going to come out? I think you're looking about 6th, 7th place. So does he do similar to what Vincenzo did, where Sandman takes the fastest lap back off of Danger David, or does he hold him up a little bit and just try and race?
Well, based on the battle a couple of laps ago, I would say race, but a lovely overtake by Quincy on Maverick to get into 10th place. Some really clean racing there on that lap. I was just on board there between the two, flicking between them as they were overtaking each other. But yeah, some really good racing there in the middle of the pack. And I think, again, that's quite a credit to the strength of this lead. We've spoken a lot about Sandman and Danger David for obvious reasons. They are at the top, but you look at some of the performances of drivers that climbed up the grid last week. You look at some of the overtaking, some of the action that's taken place so far today. It's a massive credit to the league and the strength of the drivers. But looking up and down the grid at the moment, there's not really too many drivers in a potential overtaking spot other than Quincy, who is just overtaking Pleasant Snake now to move up into 8th place. Maverick just behind in 10th, looking to overtake Quincy again, but we'll have to overtake Pleasant Snake to get the opportunity, which is just done now, and is too far behind Quincy to make a move on that corner. But yeah, some great racing that's taken place, not as action-packed as last week, but when you've only had one safety car in 19 laps compared to 23 safety cars in 19 laps, it's not going to be the case, is it?
It's not. Nearly 6.5 seconds separates Danger David from D. Perez at the moment. Danger David's done well to get himself back up into 5th place, to be fair, as the Red Bulls sit 4th and 5th. the Ferraris sit 1st and 7th. So I'm hoping I'll get an idea of just how that works. Evor's gone back into the pits, and there's a chance now that Danger David could move up into 4th place, and it could give the Red Bulls 3rd and 4th. As Danger David comes round, he has got past him on turn 1. He's managed to get ahead of him as well, just as Evor's coming out. So Toxics took a penalty there. Red Bulls are now 3rd and 4th, which means, I believe that means that Red Bull are going to be your Constructors' champions, with Ferrari sitting 1st and 7th. So Vincenzo needs to push T-Bran a little bit further to the limit. Evo down in 5th place as we speak. 9 seconds separates Danger David from 2nd place. Therefore 22 separates him from Sandman. So he really needs an error from the 2-time world champion, fighting for his 3rd at the moment. 3rd consecutive, if you will, as well, because that has been some excellent effort, and it's much more competitive than it is in real life. So I'd say the achievement's probably bigger than what Lewis Hamilton's done. I'll give him that.
That's a lot of credit there, but you say Sandman's fighting for the championship. He's currently 13.4 seconds ahead. There's not much fighting going on, I don't think, but I suppose some little tiny bit of consolation for Red Bull, and especially Danger David, with them currently looking to be the ones to lift the Constructors' Championship. But yeah, Danger David up into 4th. I can't really describe how good of a driver he must be. I dread to think if we ever ended up in a league with him when we get on, because to have had the instance that he had last week, to instantly drop to the back of the grid and still get 3rd, should I say, to have the instance, or 2nd, I can't remember now off the top of my head, but the instance that he's had so far today, and currently sitting 4th with the potential to get a podium spot, it's such a shame that he's not had the full opportunity to make this the world title deciding race that I think he deserves. But again, not to take anything away from Sandman, he's been phenomenal, and he's 13.7 seconds ahead of 2nd. Was comfortable last week, is comfortable this week, and that's why he's about to become a 3-time world champion.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the distance between Perez and Danger David, and there are a couple of cars between the two of them that Danger David needs to get past and lap. So the blue flag is coming out, and he's got a bit more work cut out of him just to be able to catch up with D. Perez now. So there's 9 seconds separating him from Trugster. 7 separates him from his teammate. So as it stands, it is going to be, I think, Red Bull that take away with it. I just want to give credit to Vincenzo. We mentioned about how Ferrari need to do everything that they can to make sure that they're closing this championship battle with Red Bull, and he then takes the fastest lap. I'm not sure if he was aware, but he was taking it away from his teammate. But he's taken the fastest lap nonetheless, and that's shown a lot of determination, as he has closed the gap on T-Bran and Ivor as well. Ivor now within DRS zone of Danger David. He just got it underneath the 2nd there as well. So if he can keep that momentum with him, he's back within the 2nd that you need as we reach up towards the 1st DRS detection zone. I believe he's going to be just outside of it when he needs it, heading on to this very long straight. So that could have been game-changing for him. We do have a yellow flag in Sector 3, and I think that's Racing Wheel 27, just being caught up to there by Veriduco, down just before the pit straight. He's back on track as well, though. So no position changes as we stay on board with Ivor, who keeps flirting with that DRS option on Danger David, just under the 2nd now as he goes onto the DRX detection zone. He's got it, he's opened the wing, and it depends on if he can close this gap significantly on Danger David. He cannot, and Danger David keeps 4th place at the moment. D. Perez up in 3rd. I think everybody now has had the pit stops that they scheduled for, with 7 laps left to go. Barring any incidents, I can't see another pit stop happening, so it does look like it's VSM Sandman who's a good 2 corners ahead of D. Perez and Trugster at the moment, and barring any incidents for him, he's going to walk away as the 3-time world champion. Ivor again onto the pit straight now, just behind Danger David now, cuts that gap to half a second, less than half a second between 4th and 5th place. I think Ivor has had a fantastic race, a fantastic season as well, to keep the Aston Martins competitive. Both them and AlphaTauri heading into this race joint on points. So the two of them battling would really help Aston Martin push themselves and elevate themselves onto the next level, as we just had a yellow flag there between Suribo and RS0121, a little bit further ahead of where Maverick is at the moment. RS0121 has had a 3-second time penalty added on, as well as Evo gets past Danger David, this time under the assistance of DRS, heading into the next quick left right. He continues pushing forward. This is no longer a DRS zone. It is a DRS zone, which has been opened up this time by Danger David. Can he regain that position to take himself back up into 4th place? The two were battling in qualifying. He's not managed to do so this time, and Evo continues in 4th place. He separates the two Red Bulls now, and I'm not quite sure just how much that changes the entire championship situation from the constructors, as Evo goes purple in Sector 2, and I think that's purple in Sector 1 and purple in Sector 2. The medium tyres, now they're warmed up with DRS behind him as well, have helped him very much potentially steal this point off of Ferrari, and that again could be game changer when we look at the points at the end of this race. As he goes on to the pit straight, takes the corner nicely, doesn't. He goes 0.032 slower than his fastest time, which is very close to taking the fastest lap as well. He does still keep the lead on Danger David though, just over half a second, which means Danger David is now the one inside the DRS zone. If he can get towards this detection as well, I think he's going to remain within the second. He is, and we might see the two cars swap places at the exact same place that they swapped places just a lap ago, as there's a chance now for Danger David opening up his DRS onto this long straight. He looks to go onto the outside if he can get close enough to Evo. He can't on this occasion, as Evo maintains 4th place heading into the quick left right. And then DRS zone 2, only 2 in Abu Dhabi. There isn't one on the pit straight, one of the very few tracks that doesn't have a DRS zone on the pit straight, as it's again the Red Bull of Danger David opens up with DRS again, but I think Evo is just going to have enough about him to keep ahead, and he does so, and now he's outside of that 1 second, so it's a chance that Evo can keep 4th place and maybe upset the rhythm for Danger David and these Red Bulls.
What's your thoughts as we approach the last few laps of the race? Sandman, the only driver on the grid who uses a controller over a wheel. Now, you and myself, we use a controller. Gaz, who we play with, uses a wheel. Does this put the question of which is better to bed, with Sandman comfortably winning this championship?
Well, Evo just takes the fastest lap there. I'm going to say, no, it doesn't. Normally, I'd say maybe so, because we've always been told that using the controller is easier and better for you than using the wheel. It's easier to navigate around, and it's something that people have always been familiar with. However, Gaz often goes quicker than us, and he uses the wheel. So I'm going to say no, I don't think it's that much of a difference. I think the fact that he's been playing this now for 19 years is the difference. He's really got himself used to it, and to be nearly 14 seconds ahead of Trugster on the final lap of the season when it all hangs in the balance, I think speaks volumes of just how well he has been doing.
Yeah, definitely, I do agree. I just wanted to put it out there, see what your thoughts were, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the discourse in the Discord later. You can trademark that if you want. After that first corner incident, not even the first corner, the incident as soon as the race started, I'm sure plenty of people will be looking at replays and having their own opinions. I'm sure the drivers involved as well will have their input from their perspective as well. But it will be interesting to see what the fallout is, as it is the final lap of the season, final race of the season. And as we look up and down the track, there's not too much going on at the moment. I've been on board with Danger David, who does seem to have fallen back a little bit from Evo, who's driving exceptionally well. Just jumped on board with Toxic. Both him and Quincy have a time penalty. Toxic looking to get into what would normally be that last points position of 10th place, but him and Quincy, as it stands, swapping that position, with Quincy having the inside line going into these corners, and Quincy has spun there. I'm not sure if there was any contact between the two, but Toxic will now comfortably go ahead with that 10th spot. But looking towards the top of the field as we approach the final few laps of the season, Sandman is in the lead, 12.8 second lead. Truckster in second, D Perez in third, who I'm just on board with now. He is within DRS of Truckster and is using that at the moment, but Truckster driving very well and that gap isn't closing. Evo in fourth place with Danger David in fifth, but there's not really too much happening at the moment in terms of overtaking opportunities. Quincy has pitted, which would suggest there was contact between him and Toxic just around half a lap ago. But we are now, Adam, in the final 4 laps of the season, and I think it's only fair if we very shortly, say for the last 2 laps, jump on board with Sandman and commentate on him winning the championship for the 3rd time in a row.
I'll do that in a moment. I've been staying on board with Skid Solo through this, as he's within a second of Maverick, and I thought there could be a little bit of a battle there to maybe move up into 8th place and hopefully, for the Aston Martin's perspective, confirm themselves as a top 3 finish for the team over the course of this season. Either them or AlphaTauri, it's very deserved. Mercedes down in 5th place, Alfa Romeo in 6th, Haas in 7th, McLaren in 8th, Alpine in 9th, and Williams in 10th place. So we are now just a couple of laps away from the end of the race and the end of the season, and as some may call it, seeing as it's the end of F122, the end of an era as well. We do just have a yellow flag in Sector 3, but that's something that does seem to be a bit more of a common theme between RS0121 and Sir Ibo. Sir Ibo with a 9-second time penalty there as well. His teammate, Pleasant Snake 13, is up into 12th place. We are on board with VSM Sandman as he comes round into turns 9 and 10 onto the pit straight. A 13.2 second lead over Trugster will almost confirm him. In fact, it will confirm him as a 3-time world champion. We do still have a couple of laps left, but he's drove this race very smoothly. He's remained at every situation confident, calm and collected, and I think he's very deserving of this 3rd world championship skin.
Yeah, what can you say? Unfortunately, we haven't been able to take in the full season. It would have been very interesting to see, the season as it went on, but his legacy and his credentials speak for themselves. They won the 2 championships before this. And look, with a new game comes new physics and changes to the way cars drive and react and all that kind of stuff. So 3 times in a row, Sandman has won the championship, but now they move on to a brand new game, which, you would assume, or you would hope, considering you're paying a lot of money for a new game, is going to be slightly different and slightly more realistic. So could potentially open the field up a little bit. Who knows? Time will tell as the lads get stuck into the new season on F123. But yeah, this is pretty much as comfortable as a championship winning race as you can get. It's not a Max Verstappen in Abu Dhabi. It's not a Lewis Hamilton in Brazil. It's not one of the many other races over the years where a driver is needed, to do a lot with a little bit of luck to win the championship. Sandman just needed to stay consistent, make sure he was comfortable, avoid any trouble, and he's done just that as he goes into the penultimate lap of the season, over 12 seconds clear. So you've got to assume, unless there is an absolute miracle, he is about to win the World Championship.
Yeah, I've remained on board with D. Perez throughout your explanation there of just how well Sandman's doing, because he's closed the gap and then lost it a little bit. He got it to 0.3 seconds at one point, but he's fallen back to 7 tenths behind Trugster in 2nd place. And it looks like Trugster is going to have this race pushed to the very end to see which one can take the 2nd step on the podium. It'll be a very important thing as Vincenzo now takes a 3-second time penalty, which could... Well, I'd say it could be important, but Maverick's 17 seconds behind him, so maybe not as important as we first thought. As D. Perez tries to close the gap on Trugster, is a very big statement considering his teammate is fighting for the World Championship. He is currently a little bit further down as well, and he has been throughout the course of this season. So, I suppose, as you've been wanting to do, are you wanting to do the final lap and the celebrations for Sandman?
Mate, you are the commentator here, you are the leading man, so as he approaches the penultimate corner, mate, it's only fair that you take myself and our viewers and the drivers that will watch this back through the final lap of the season. So I will set you up as Sandman goes right now round the penultimate corner, 12 seconds ahead. Adam, take us through the very last lap of the season.
Here we go then. So Sandman crosses the line to start the final lap of the race, the final lap of the season, and the final lap of F122. Taking the first corner almost as smoothly as he's taken the corners throughout the entirety of this race and the entirety of this season. It started in Netherlands, where he finished in first place before falling out of the top three for both Austria and Saudi Arabia. He finished that up with the top step of the podium back in Brazil, and he did the same last weekend in Baku. He also finished fourth and third in China and Netherlands Netherlands respectively. It has been a case of every race this season he has finished within the top five. Consistency has been key for him. He doesn't look like he's going to take the fastest lap in this race, but that won't matter. He will take the top step of the podium for the third time this season, and it's the most important one because it finishes with a third consecutive Drivers' Championship. His teammate is currently down in 7th place, and we'll have to wait and see as to whether that means Ferrari will do the double and also walk out with constructors. And I dare say Sandman might even be listening to me, as he's just gone purple in Sector 2. He's desperate. He's going to finish on a high. Not only is the top step of the podium enough for him, he's going to walk away with the fastest lap as well. As he goes into the final few corners here in Abu Dhabi, turn 8 now takes the left turn very nicely against, avoids the wall, continues pushing forward. He's lapped numerous cars as he goes round the penultimate corner of Abu Dhabi onto the pit straight as VSM Sandman walks away, the third time world champion. He doesn't quite get the fastest lap, but he won't care. He will walk away as the champion, a very well-deserved champion as well, nearly 14 seconds ahead of the AlphaTauri of Trugster. Important points in the battle for third place, as he was almost caught by D. Perez, who finishes in third place as well. Ivor down in fourth place, manages to gain a bit of a lead from Danger David as he crosses the line and confirms for Aston Martin their best chances of taking third place. Danger David will be disappointed with how that race has gone, but nonetheless he takes 5th place, and after the couple of crashes that he had, he'll be happy to at least have made it into what would naturally have been a points finish. T-Brand finishes in 6th place, and then the Ferrari of Vincenzo, despite a time penalty, will finish in 7th place. Maverick will come in 8th place, 20 seconds behind the Ferrari, followed up by Skid Solo and Toxic. We won't see finishes from Pleasant Snake 13, Quincy Veriduco and Sir Ibo, who all finished after being lapped, therefore don't get to do their final lap. Toxic, we just wait now to come round on the final corner in his Alfa Romeo. He nearly goes into the wall doing so, as well as he just has to keep us on edge a little bit towards the end. Finishes in 10th place after 11th place finish last week, and Racing Wheel will finish the season for us as he comes round onto the penultimate corner, somewhat 21 seconds behind Toxic, but nonetheless he's done his absolute best to keep this car competitive this season. Finishes in 11th place, and that concludes the season of the All Assist Off League Season 10. It has been finished with VSM Sandman on the top step of the podium and the top step of the championship. Almost faultless from myself there. Evo wins the driver of the day on paper, but Skin, who are you giving it to?
It's tough to say, mate. It's tough to say. You want to say Sandman did everything that he had to do. You look at a D. Perez, who started in 7th and moved up to 1st, but up to 3rd, sorry, should I say. But I think you've got to give it Sandman, haven't you? Started in 3rd place, avoided the trouble at the start, and could not have won that race any more comfortably if he tried. Probably, maybe pushed it a little bit more in the final third of the race, but who would do that in that situation when there was no reason to? So Sandman has to get my driver of the day. What about yourself? Have you got anyone different to that, or are you with the consensus?
I'm going to give mine to D. Perez. I think driver of the day naturally goes to somebody that on this game they just give it to whoever's made the most positions, don't they, usually? I think that's just their rule of thumb. But I think D. Perez has moved up from 7th to 3rd. He moved up quite early on in the race as well. I think he moved up to 4th place at one point, and then led the race for a bit, did his absolute best to support his teammate, and then I think he's one of the potential drivers that you've got to keep an eye out for next season as well. Over the last 2 weeks driving for this Red Bull, I think he's been phenomenal. He's been a great sport. He missed out last week, of course, not finishing the race in Baku, but off the grid didn't finish the race in Baku. When it comes to supporting Danger David, he did absolutely everything he could. I think at one point he took the fastest lap. He was leading the race. He moved up from 7th into 3rd place. I think it's been a fantastic race for him. But I think there's multiple that you could turn around and say have been the driver of the day. But Skin, that's it. We're signing off for F122. Who knows what's going to happen in F123? I'll get my agent to speak to your agent, and I'm sure we can sort something out.
I'm sure we can, mate. But class work from you, mate. Class work from all the drivers. You should all be proud of what you've achieved. And I'm still undecided if I'm going to be buying F123, so you might not hear from me again. But something can change between now and next week. And if so, well, if they start off straight away, we'll be back next Monday for race 1 of the first ever season of F123. But until then, Aggie, pleasure, mate, as always, and enjoy your night.